Hi, welcome everybody to our School of Library and Information Science Career Fair. Thank you to those who are in the room and came and spoke with employers this morning. And then hello to everybody online who's viewing this live or looking at this via the recording we're doing at a later date. Today we have 4 professionals to speak to you about some of the fantastic projects they're working on in their work lives, and also give you some advice about job hunting and career development. So I'm really happy to have these 4 folks here with us today, and I'm going to let them talk since you all hear too much from me. So Holly Flynn from the Michigan State University Libraries is going to start us off. Thank you.
Thanks. Can you all hear me okay? Thanks. My name is Holly Flynn. I am the Outreach Librarian at Michigan State University. I finished the program here in 2002, and I'm proof that this career fair works. In 2002, in April, I came here and spoke to someone at the Michigan State table, and academic job searches take a long time, so a few months later, I was hired, and the rest is history. At the time, I thought I was going to be a cataloger, so all of my classes that I took were in cataloging, advanced cataloging, and worked in public services ever since then. Never cataloged something. So I spent the first 9 years at Michigan State as the mathematics librarian, running a small branch library. And then about 5 years ago, outreach kind of became this buzzword in academic libraries, and they hired their first academic librarian, which was me. I switched over to doing that. And the thing about outreach is it means something different to pretty much everyone. From what I can tell in the academic world, outreach librarians kind of fall into 2 different categories. Either they're doing the library marketing and communications, or they're like info-lit librarians and doing teaching and programming and that kind of thing. My job sort of falls somewhere in between. I do all those things. So, outreach. When I went to my very first ALA conference, when I became the outreach librarian, I looked through their program and typed in outreach, and everything that came up was on bookmobiles and outreach to prisoners, things that an academic librarian would do. But basically, it is telling people about the library. That's what I spent all my time doing. When I first started out, the way MSU Libraries works, I think when we're fully staffed, there's about 85 librarians. And each one is a specialist and a liaison to an academic department. So I was the math librarian for a long time. When I was first hired, I was supposed to be the library's liaison to non-academic units on campus, which would be the residence halls, career services, the counseling center. So I went from having one department to having about 40. And so I would try to reach out to them, and truthfully it wasn't working very well. I'd say, I'd go into their career services or something and say, I'm your librarian. That's nice. So we got off to kind of a rough start. But the other thing that I started doing was I coordinate all the library's resource or information fairs. This is from freshman orientation. MSU has 7,000 to 8,000 freshmen every year come through. And so as part of that, we staff a resource fair every day, Monday through Thursday for 4 hours a day, where we teach students about the library and make them become familiar with that. And so I coordinate that and a whole bunch of other resource fairs on campus. So we generally reach about 10,000 people a year through that. I also coordinate tours. There weren't very many library tours before I started, mostly because we didn't have the personnel to lead them. More and more, we're getting a lot of K through 12 tours coming through the library, and I think part of the reason for that is because we're located right across the street from the MSU Museum, and so sometimes teachers will call me and say, the museum can't get us in until 2 o'clock. Can you give us a tour of the library? So I tried to sort of steer them more into like a little program at the library instead of just a tour. So we've had, this is a kindergarten class, but We have a 5th grade class. There's 85 of them, 3 sections. They've been coming for about 4 years now. And we take them to special collections and we show them our oldest book. We have been about MSU Libraries is the world's largest collection of comic books. We show them those. We have an espresso book machine, which is this big robotic machine that will make a paperback book in less than 10 minutes. So we do self-publishing there, so we showed them that. And the 5th graders actually write their own book for months in advance and watch their book being made right in front of them. We take them to the makerspace and then we see the 3D printers. And then we take them up to our maps library. The one thing that she usually shows them are these 3D maps, which were made by the Nazis in World War II and then taken by the U.S. Army. And there are these 3D maps that like show passages through the Alps. So kids love the 3D stuff. I also coordinate quite a few events in the library. I have the most fun job in the library, I think. I do the open house every year, but I also do the banned books readout. That's in our 4th year. We remodeled the patio in front of the library. And so now every year we gather out there during banned books week and everybody grabs a book and they read for like 5 minutes from a banned book. And people walk by and we see us and we stop. And, we also work with an English class. They're learning to be high school English teachers, so they spend the whole week learning about banned books. What we've started doing the past few years are finals week events. The library is completely packed during finals week and the week before. Our library it's sort of like 2 buildings that are connected on the 1st floor, basement through 4th floor. It is completely full. People are sitting on the floor, they bring in extra tables and chairs. Like everyone is stressed out and tired and worn out. And so we started bringing in therapy dogs a few years ago. The students love it. And after that, we decided we needed to do more. So we started the Night of 1,000 Donuts, which is fairly self-explanatory. And then our development officer approached the MSU Federal Credit Union, and they actually gave us $10,000 to pay for 2 semesters worth of finals week programming. So things just exploded even more after that. And it's nice because I think some people maybe thought we were spending the book money on donuts or something. That's how they do that. Last year, we also had baby goats on the library's patio, and that was also very popular. We had about 300 people in an hour to see them. They are, the woman who raises them is a nurse, and she takes these baby goats to nursery schools and nursing homes and all kinds of things. And so students really like that too. We have a carnival, a prize wheel, and a photo booth, all kinds of fun things. I do occasionally think our photographer took that picture and think I went to grad school to hand out donuts. I admit that I steal a lot of ideas from public libraries. I think Blind Date with Book probably started in public libraries. Super popular with us. We wrap up about 100 books and give them away in 2 days. We do actually have some fun books in an academic library. Not a ton, but some. Last year, we do different things to celebrate National Library Week. Last year, we did this photo essay online. We used Adobe Spark. It was called Adobe Slate then. And so it's basically a day in the life of the library behind the scenes. It took forever to do, but we took pictures of everything from the mailroom to behind the scenes of the cafe and released that on social media. And that was actually really hugely popular. Sometimes it's just going with whatever the fad is at the time. Last year we noticed tons and tons of students and community people coming through the library playing Pokemon Go. And so we realized, we have the world's largest collection of comics. We have the country's largest collection of media, so that would be DVDs. Why don't we just put up a pop-up exhibit in the middle of the lobby? And so we did, and people read Pokemon comic books, they watched Pikachu Party videos, and they played Nintendo 64, some classic games. As part of our giant media collection we have is a huge video game collection. Something that's getting more popular, I think, or maybe is especially popular at basketball school, would be March Madness type bracket challenges. I've seen these for Books Week, I've seen them for all kinds of books. We do ours with movies. And so as people pass by, they vote for their favorite movie. I have noticed out of a lot of the programming that we do, passive programming is really popular because students don't want to leave their desk or their table because then somebody else might take it. So something they can do in passing and maybe learn something and maybe have fun is really, really popular. And so they really enjoyed that. And, I'd come in the morning and there would be lots of snarky comments all over it, like somebody would write in Paul Blart Mall Cop in the middle. So sometimes, besides doing events, I do teach some classes. We have an information literacy unit, which I'm not part of. They do all of the freshman teaching, basically. But we have a lot of summer camps that come through, and student groups. So I give lots of tours to them and will give instructions to them when they ask for it. The library park marketing, I'm getting more and more involved in that. Our director currently has me working on the 10-year report. Apparently our library doesn't do annual reports. We do them every random 10 years. I'm trying to remember everything that happened to the library in the last 10 years. Off-campus outreach, I don't do a lot of this. Sometimes I will go to local writing groups or genealogy groups, that kind of thing, and tell them about our espresso book machine. We do try and partner with local public libraries a lot. Besides the programs that I run, there are plenty of other library programs going on, like film series and book clubs. And so we have partnered with our local public libraries, especially on book clubs. We run a pretty popular Muslim Journeys book club. And East Lansing Public has been a really good partner in that. As far as social media goes, I used to have to do that, but last year we hired a social media coordinator, so that has been great because before I was doing Facebook and somebody else was doing Twitter, and we had like name-parked Instagram, but weren't doing anything with it. And she is a recent graduate, and she really knows her stuff when it comes to that. That's been great. It is the best job in the library, but there are some drawbacks, I guess. The hours, if you want to do outreach with students, they are in class or working during the day. So it is a lot of evening stuff. All of our finals week things, like we hand out donuts at 10 o'clock at night. And so I'm trying to find librarians to come to the library at 10 o'clock at night to pass out donuts. I had a student who wants to interview me about the dogs, and he said, well, I could meet you at 7 o'clock on Friday. Deadlines, I do all of the marketing for all of our library events, and those are organized by all of our other librarians. And so everything I do basically is time sensitive. Whether it's a movie that we're showing or Band Books Week, we can't have that the week after Band Books Week, it's got to be done right then. So sometimes time is of essence. There are some professional committees that you could get involved in now, if this is the kind of thing that you're interested in. ACRL has an academic outreach committee. I've been on that before, I'm not currently on it, but they host free webinars, basically. They're through Google Air, and they record them and put them on YouTube afterwards, so you can certainly go and look at those. They are a different topic every month, like outreach to international students, outreach welcome week, all different kinds of topics. There's also a group called LMAO, which doesn't sound that great, but it stands for Library Marketing and Outreach. They have a really active Facebook group, and people put up their ideas there. Feel free to steal them, ask questions, whatever. I'm the president-elect of the LAMA Marketing and Communications section, and we do a couple things through there if you're interested in marketing. One is the PR exchange. So libraries all over the country send us all their handouts, and we have a panel of judges who judge them and give out the PR exchange awards, which is just a certificate, but it's kind of a starting point award. We also award the John Cotton Dana Award, which is a more extensive library marketing award. You get $10,000 if you win that, the library does. A little closer to home, a few years ago, the Michigan Academic Library Association started. I think they have a meeting next month in Grand Rapids, and they have a marketing and community engagement interest group. And so you can always join that. They have webinars all the time. It's headed by Brenna Wade at Hillsdale College, I think. She's great. So is it making any difference, all this goofy stuff that I do? About 6 months ago or so, an article appeared in the Chronicle of Higher Education. Someone had done on campus was used heat maps. They asked students which buildings you feel the best in, which give you warm fuzzies, and which you feel colder and not so great about. And one of those orange blobs up there is the main library. And students' comments when they talked about the main library was that it was a warm, welcoming space. It met all of their needs, whether they were looking for a quiet place to study or a group space to study, or they needed specific software, that they felt comfortable being there. And I think that all kind of fits with outreach and what we're trying to do, just create a warm, welcoming, inclusive environment there.
Do we have questions for Holly? I have a question just to start us off. What are some of the skills do you think an outreach librarian should have, and how would they obtain those skills?
I think I work in public services, and so it's odd because I'm actually really, really introverted, one of the shyest people in the library, and when I expressed interest in becoming the outreach librarian, I'm sure our director was probably like, oh. So you have to kind of flex your personality and be out there when you need to be out there, and just be very flexible and willing to try new things. You know, I had no idea how this donut thing was going to go, and even asking our director, can I buy 1,000 donuts? You just have to be willing to fail too.
Good point.
I have a question about your, you said you had a program with the fifth graders. That's something that the public schools do with in conjunction with kind of follow the course of the book.
Yeah, so we work with a fifth grade class in Holland, Michigan, and they come to MSU for a day in late May. And so they actually spend a few months ahead of time working on a book with their teacher. And I think they work with our espresso machine coordinator too to get all the formatting down and all of that. So I haven't been too involved with the whole process. But man, you should see their faces when it prints out.
Any other questions? Anything? Oh.
What are there some satellite library programs going on in Michigan State? And can you elaborate on what those were?
Oh, the neighborhoods. Is that it maybe? Or the branch libraries?
Just for that, I think what I read was on campus, just in different places where students may congregate where they want to get library help.
Oh, yeah. So MSU has, I think, one of the country's largest residence hall systems. There are 20 different halls, I think, or 25. So for each grouping of residence halls, there's what's called an engagement center, which is a big open space where they can get writing center help, math help, they can get help from a librarian, they can get career advising, all kinds of things. And so when we first started that, when they first approached us, we had librarians go out there in the evening, and nobody was asking us anything at all. We have since hired students to go out there and do that. They're peer research assistants, and I think they're getting actually much better contact with students. They're less scary looking, I guess.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Next up, we have Ed Busch, who is archivist at Michigan State as well, and also recent awardee of the National Digital Stewardship Alliance Innovators Award. So congratulations, Ed. And that's for the Mid-Michigan Digital Practitioners Group that he is heavily involved with, which we recently had a conference here at Wayne State as well. So maybe you can talk about that a little bit too. So, okay, thank you, Ed.
Like she said, Kim said, I'm Ed Busch from the MSU Archives, and at MSU and Michigan State, the archives are separate from the library. We're actually physically and organizationally separate, and we have much better hours. We work 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. So anyway, so I'm also the poster child for the non-traditional career path for getting into library science. I actually have a Bachelor of Science degree in Fisheries from Humboldt State in California, but it's quickly evident that I wasn't going to get full-time work, so I actually switched to working in the computer field because my dad was a computer programmer. So I got into aerospace, and I worked there for 12 years working on classified spy satellite stuff. And during that time, I started working on a computer science degree, which I did not finish, but it was very helpful. And then I got tired of the black world as far as security clearances and switched to commercial programming environment where I worked for one of the Baby Bells in Denver, Colorado. I used to be U.S. West, and I mostly was doing, at that time, software testing and some requirements writing. And then about that time, my first daughter showed up, and we decided to move to Michigan. I was a stay-at-home dad, so I'm kind of jumping all around here. And I stayed at home with ended up being 2 daughters until they were, the oldest one was in 3rd grade. And when she was in 1st grade, I decided I needed to get back to work, and so that's when I started at Wayne State in 2005. And originally I thought I was going to be a public librarian, but then I started taking some classes and talking to people. I was like, hey, archives, this kind of fits more with my interests. You know, I'm always been a kind of amateur historian. I'm a family genealogist. I have a technology background, so all the archives are going to electronic records. So that's what I did, and so I got the Archives Administration Certificate here at Wayne. I graduated in 2007. That time I started doing a lot of volunteer work. I was volunteering at MSU. I was volunteering at the district library down in downtown Lansing. They have archives there. And I actually started doing the archives for my church in Lansing, which they've been very grateful for, because now they can actually find all their historical records. And they actually use them in their, a lot of their services now. So in 2008, I started working at MSU Archives as a processing archivist. And at that time, I was jointly appointed. I kind of had a backdoor in. My wife also works at MSU. She's a psychiatrist at the health center. And so it was a joint appointment between the health center and the College of Human Medicine and the College of Osteopathic Medicine and the archives. There's a 3-year term position. And I was processing. Mostly at that time, I was working with the colleges. The first big one was with Human Medicine College, where I went over, and they had a storeroom entirely filled with file cabinets, boxes. It was just they've been filling it for 30 years with materials. So I worked on that, and that was a good example of how, working on a large collection. It ended up being 120 boxes, cubic feet of materials, and so I was inventorying, and then I actually processed them. And then osteopathic was a similar situation. And during that time, I was kind of educating them also on what kind of things to keep. So that was kind of the stuff I was doing as a processing archivist. Also during that time in 2010, I knew the sesquicentennial of the Civil War was beginning in 2011, and so I proposed to the MSU Archives that they have all these Civil War letters. We need to put those online. So I proposed a project that we transcribe these letters and then scan them and put them online. Well, as part of that, we came up with a system working with the Matrix group on campus, MSU. It's part of the humanities group. They developed a lot of websites. I think they've actually done some with Wayne State before, too. Anyway, the thing that we did that was pretty unique was that most Civil War sites with letters, they traditionally showed the example of the letter here, and below you have to scroll down and see the text on the transcript. What we did, and I think we're the first one that did it, we actually had them side by side. So you can see the actual text, and then you can see what we transcribed next to it. So that's what we ended up developing. It took us, I led a team of volunteers, staff, student workers. We spent the first year transcribing as many letters as we could, because we thought that was going to be the slow part of the process. It turns out, actually, the slow part of the process is scanning the letters and doing all the metadata. And so at this point, I'm down to just one grad student helping me, but we've got about 50 collections online now. If you're interested, it's at civilwar.archives.msu.edu. So that was, let's see, about 2010, 2011. At that time period, I switched to being moved from processing archivist to electronic records archivist. And the big project when I started there was the Spartan Archive, it was a grant-funded project, and it was a prototype of how to ingest records that live in a database. So these were mostly with the registrar's office. It was the student directory, the schedule of classes, course descriptions, and so nobody knew how. I mean, it's easy to work with. Well, easy is a relative term. Work with flat, regular files like a JPEG, a photo image, or a document. But how do you deal with databases? And so, because those, they're in a database, and so what do you transfer? And so we came up with a system where the registrar's office would pull that data out, convert it to an XML file, and then send it to us, and then we would actually put it back into a database, but we would also present it in a way that was text readable and searchable on our site. So that's another site if you're interested. It's called spartanarchive.msu.edu. On there now we had to pull the student directory recently, but that's another story. There were some security angles, but MSU had that security breach, and now they're reacting in a way that's more restrictive, but I think we're going to get back on it at some point. Anyway, we have the course descriptions going all the way back to, I think, the 70s, and course schedules. We did have the student directory, as I said. We also had faculty directories on there. We had budget books from the MSU. Let's see, next project. Well, another thing that I worked on originally. So MSU, the archives, their collection management system was, when I got there in 2008, it was a DOS-based system based on it was called MicroMark was the name of the program. It was all MARC-based, and so I led the team that converted that to Archivist Toolkit, which uses MySQL as the back end on that. And now, coming this summer, finally, as the Archivist Toolkit, I think stopped being supported in 2014. Anyway, now we're going to finally migrate from Archivist Toolkit to ArchiveSpace, which is the new collection management system supported by the archivist community nationally and internationally. So I'll be doing that later this summer. Part of the tricky part with that is that we actually tweaked Archivist Toolkit to also do records management. And actually, I did a poster presentation years ago at SAA about that, the Society of American Archivists. So first we're going to have to actually pull out the records management stuff into a new records management tool. We're going to be using one from Versatile Enterprise. And then once we do that, we can migrate this stuff into ArchivesSpace. Another thing I've been working on is electronic records. There's a program called Archivematica. It's based on the OAIS model. I don't know if you're familiar with all this, but a lot of jargon. There's SIPs, which are submission information packets. That's what, when you submit, you create a package of electronic records, and that's what gets ingested into Archivematica, and then it's stored as APEs, archival information packets. And then when a user would access it, there would be a DIP, display dissemination information packet, I think. Anyway, so we're using Archivematica, and unfortunately right now all we have is a system to ingest and put it in this preservation environment. We don't have an access portal right now. We're lacking some funding. So as a consequence of that, we've been doing that for now about 3 years. Shortly, in the next few weeks, I'm going to be starting an evaluation of Preservica. It's another competitor to Archivematica. Preservica is a commercial product you can either do a cloud-based version or a local hosted. We're going to be doing a cloud-based system, and it's an end-to-end solution. So you've got the ingesting, you've got the storing of your preservation materials in the cloud, and then it comes with a public interface. So we're going to look at that because it might be, for our funding situation, it might be a good way to go. As part of this evaluation, I'll also be working with partners at the university, such as potential users, such as our university relations, other colleges, contracts and grants, the registrar's office, have them evaluate how the user interface works and see if, and try to get them as supporters of this project. Let's see. I also worked on part of our acquiring electronic records is working with the units to get their electronic records. And we took a program that was developed in a grant by Tufts University. It's called TAPER. We modified that tool to create an online web interface that officers can create what is called a submission agreement. And that's where they tell us, that's where they identify who the key people are that own a record, what type of record it is, and other information, and they create this agreement form that we have online. And once they do that, we can give them a user access to actually start transferring records to us using our web interface. And then we'll ingest them currently into Archivematica. Like Kim said, a group that I work with is the MMDP, the Mid-Michigan Digital Practitioners. Kim had started a group, found an early group over here in the Detroit area, and I thought, oh, that's a great idea. And some other archivists, a person up in Central suggested to me that we need to do something in Mid-Michigan. And so I contacted some people at the MSU Library, and we started this Mid-Michigan Digital Practitioners group. And it's kind of a homegrown group that twice a year now we do presentations, and we actually have a day of workshops now. The next, as Kim said, the last one was here at Wayne State. Our next one will be in the fall at Library, Michigan, in Lansing. And it's all volunteer based. We have a planning team. We do surveys online to try to get ideas for what types of presentations people are interested in. And it's a good group. If you're interested, more information, you contact me. We have a listserv that I manage. Let's see. Advice for people going electronic records. Technology, technology, technology. There's paper records still, but I can tell you, you've got to learn to be very technology minded, because I know at MSU, any future archivists, they have to know the technology minded. Some programs that are good, I would recommend some easy ones would be like Power Excel user and Power Access user. Those are just, you kind of just use those as a day-to-day thing all the time. But some of the other programs would be like learning how to use OpenRefine, XSLT. If you can be kind of a good regular expression user, that's useful for all kinds of data translation. And it kind of leads me into that. It's also used with web crawling. If you're using Archivist, that's another thing that I do. I'm the one person crawling all the MSU websites, which is, we have a subscription for 1.5 terabytes a year, so I'm collecting that much data. But using regular expressions is a way to control some of it, get rid of some of the extra stuff that you're getting when you're crawling websites. So it's really a good thing to learn, but it's, when you look at regular expressions, it's kind of like this gobbledygook code. So it's just something that I would recommend. Then when you graduate, and probably before you graduate, I would really recommend volunteering. I mean, archives, libraries, like I did a church. Boy, small churches would just love to have somebody come in and organize their records. Historical societies, they've got boxes of stuff they haven't dealt with. Also, I'm getting involved with the Michigan Archival Association. If you're an archivist, they do like little grants for attending MIA, and actually, right now the next registration is open for the next MIA, which is in Traverse City in June. Get involved in MMDP. We are always looking for volunteers to help with our planning team. Another thing that we're working on, this is my idea. We're actually about to publish a book. I realized that we've been doing all these blogs and small articles for magazines. We're going to accumulate all these archive stories, and we're going to call it Tales from the Archives. We actually have enough material for at least 3 volumes already. So that's all I have. But it wasn't too good.
No. Do we have questions for Ed?
All the programs that you mentioned, do you take it upon yourself to learn them? Is that something that you do on the job? Is that something you do now?
I did it on the job. But I suspect some of the current courses probably have students using those programs now. But it's just, you find yourself doing a lot of translation of file formats to other formats. So it's kind of it's an important thing to do. Yeah, I guess another thing I didn't mention was also learning, becoming familiar with like virtual environments, using tools like Vagrant to create like so like on my desktop I can run Archive Space, this little Vagrant thing, and when I'm testing a migration from Archivist Toolkit to Archive Space, I can run it and then just start all over again, just like, just restarting a file. It's pretty useful for testing out tools.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Is there a way for you to know how many users are accessing the materials that you archive? I feel like that would be a big satisfaction to know that all the work you're putting in is being used.
I do have Google Analytics on all of our websites. So I was mentioning the Spartan Archive and how the security made us take our student directory down. Well, we're looking to try. We were originally thinking we were going to make it so it would only work at the archive, so it could be, access would be controlled by your IP address, so it would only be an Archivist PC. But now we're realizing that we discovered using Google Analytics that like the library was actually a big user of the student directory. I don't know what it's for, but so now we're thinking we're going to convince security that we should turn on user authentication and just have it so it's accessible any place at MSU.
How large is the team that you work with, and what percentage are there students? What percentage of students versus just people archiving?
Well, currently I'm the only electronic records person. That's why I pretty much do everything. But I do have a part-time person, another Wayne State graduate. She works, I don't know, about 2 days a week. She's also doing part-time at LCC. And then the 1.5 of us are doing electronic records. And then I'm still managing the Civil War project, so I have a part-time PhD student, and I have a digital humanities undergraduate helping me right now. But the archives is pretty small. We have less, let's see, 1, 2, I think probably there's like 6 or 7 of us that do the whole university. And probably 2 of those are records managers.
And you really do it in 8 to 5 for me?
Well, I have to say, we're not making a lot of forward progress. It's a lot of training more. But I think we're going to be hiring sometime this year somebody to help me full time.
Okay, we'll move on. If you have more questions afterwards, we will be able to take some more questions. So thank you, Anna. Next, I'd like to introduce Jennifer Cornell, who is also adjunct faculty with us and has now moved into a position in SLIS class. So she's got a little different take on career development, and so I'm going to let Jennifer share some of her fun projects that she's working on right now.
Yeah, so thanks, Kim. My job title at Proquest is Training and Consulting Partner. And so I came upon this job purely serendipitously, and I'll tell you a little bit about that journey after I tell you a little bit about Proquest. And this isn't like a sales pitch or anything. This is just so you understand what Proquest is and how you as an information professional would want to be involved in what's formerly known as a vendor, a content provider, any one of those things. So Proquest is a provider of information for libraries. And so if you've heard of Proquest, you've probably heard of them because you've seen it when doing your research. Because a lot of times academic libraries and libraries will break down their database content into a brand name, when really that's not what you're looking for. So if you're ever in a situation where somebody recommends you look at Proquest, they don't know what they're talking about. Because actually what we include, we're content providers. So we have your traditional databases. But we also have a product that we curate called History Book, which has some archived materials, as you mentioned, not yours, but NAACP papers, for example, are all housed in there. Women's Studies section, Vietnam War documents are all in there. And the reason I'm going to mention some of these is because you all come to the table today with an undergrad degree in a lot of times history or some kind of literature or some kind of liberal arts type degree. And so you're going to be able to bring what you started with to the table as a librarian. So we also do government docs. So any of you that love looking up government information, which is brutally popular right now, more so than it ever has been in the past, because people are wanting to know the real deal as opposed to fake news or alternate news. So we have all of that content, including executive branch documents, all the real stuff from the government. We have K through 12 products. So if you come to the table with a background in elementary education or any type of education, so we curate our own content called Culturegrams. And that's done by us. So if you have an interest in creating content or helping to create content, you would want to do that. And what that does is take a bunch of countries and put them into a formatted script so that students, kids, people in general, because we have corporate customers that use that as well for like traveling. It gives you like what to wear, how to speak, what's traditional. We also do a product called Research Companion. We put that together for mostly high schoolers so that they learn how to do general research in credible ways, which, as we all know, is a challenge with our reducing media specialists and K-12 librarians. We partnered with Ancestry.com to put together that profile of the product, so Ancestry, Heritage Quest, Fold 3, so if you like those types of things. We do a product called Pivot, which is a nonprofit research type thing. Has anybody heard of Alexander Street products? We just acquired that company, all video music-based content, which greatly enhances our content. So for example, there's the entire archive of 60 Minutes shows. So if you have someone who wants those, and they transcribe them as they go, they're interactive, you can create clips for your users. So we just acquired that. We like to acquire companies, and I hope we stop because it just makes it really complicated. Ex Libris is another one of our companies, so integrated library systems. So if you're working in a public library or academic library, anywhere that uses a catalog, or you want to be the person that runs the integrated library system. We have a product for that. We have a product called RefWorks that manages all your bibliographic information. So the reason, we do also, one of my favorite products is we have the entire Vogue archive, which we have, so we have the entire editions in full color from the very beginning of Vogue to current, indexed and searchable. And if you ever want to see something really cool, just search online for robots using Vogue. And what they, I think it's Rutgers, maybe, I don't remember. But they use that archive to do digitization or digital projects, where they look and say, how many colors were used in the magazine, and how many this, and how many that. So they use our product to basically extract and data mine information. So really cool, robots using Vogue is what that is. Old English books online, if you like that type of thing. So we have this plethora of stuff. So in my job, what I do as a training consulting partner is I get to train on these things. So I need to, in this job, I've been here for almost a year and a half, and I have had to dig out my inner librarian like you would not believe. Because previous to this, I worked at a public library, where even though I had a degree, I was really working more circulation, which is really retail. In a public library, you're dealing with customers, you're not doing a lot with your degree. So in this case, I've had to know all these products. I've had to know how you extract information from them, how you explain it to people. And they're all different. These are not all on the same platform. So when you go to one, you have to learn another. I've had to work with academic librarians who, they have not just Proquest as a vendor. They have other vendors, and so all those products are different. So in that regard, I work with all of these products. So how did I come upon this position? I was getting a little weary of my job at the public library. I think mainly because I wasn't using my inner librarian skills and some of my other skills that I'll talk to you about in a minute. And so I was looking for jobs that I thought I would like. Small library director, mainly small library director. I was looking at getting out of the library field to do training because that's really what my thing is. And so what I did finally, after months and months of not getting anywhere, having some interviews, but they failed, which is good because we all get to where we need to be based on all the things that get us there. I put on Career Builder, put my resume out there. I'm like, okay, I'm going to get tons of hits for like insurance salesman. What am I going to get? Which I got plenty of those. But I put in the tagline, I wanted to be a trainer and go into consulting because I was going to start my own library consulting business. And lo and behold, the title I have now is Training Consulting Partner. And that was the perfect match. I was found by a recruiter. I did not search for this position. So I guess what I'm saying to you is if you haven't thought about putting something on Career Builder, be prepared, or Monster, any of those, be prepared to get a little junk in your inbox, because there's plenty of people that want me to sell State Farm. But be prepared for someone to find you. And based on what you put. And I think this was just serendipitous. I would say that this is not going to happen. It may, but it's not going to happen a lot of the time, but it does happen. And so that was my little success story. And so what are some other, my job does require an MLIS. We're one of the handful of positions within Proquest that require that. A lot of them are suggested or preferred. Some of them I just looked up the other day. So these are things that you could do with your degree. Sales account manager, requiring a master's in library science for Sweden, Norway, and Iceland. We're a worldwide company. Sales specialist for historical collections. So if you're somebody in here that loves that history and government stuff, there's a type of thing for you. We have I was surprised at how many sales specialists we're looking for, probably because we're acquiring all these companies. So if you want to do video and archive collections, France or Amsterdam. Supervisor of content operations. So working with our product in Pivot, which is a research for grants and things. Team leader and proposal writer. So you would be writing proposals that we then give to customers to get them to buy our product. Content and workflow consultant for ebooks, print books, and subscriptions. That's one thing you mentioned, and I'm so glad you did. Technology is the way to go, and if you're a little weak in it, jump out of this room today and get your hands on as much as you can. How do ebooks work? What are they in the print world? What are subscriptions? You mentioned authentication. Have you guys heard of these? Easy Proxy SSO, IP authentication, RDA. Those are things you need to know as you, or would help if you knew them as you got into starting jobs. And I didn't know these prior to over a year ago because I hadn't been exposed to or had to know them. And so I will tell you that then when I jumped online to this job, and it's a work from home position, so I don't work with people every day, although I do work with people every day in a barrier with the computer and the person on the other side. You're expected to just grab and go. So when we started on this project for ebooks, I didn't know a lot of this, and I kept asking questions, and people are, I think, assuming like, oh, you have your library degree, you should know this, and so I'm not going to take tons of time to work with you on this. And so I'm tons smarter than I was a year ago. But those are things that I keep in mind that since I am an adjunct, and I get constant feedback on why do we have to do group work in an online setting. Grumble. I can't look at these people. I don't want to work with them. Nobody's doing their part, blah, blah, blah. My team of 13 people is an online team. I met them once last year. I didn't even look my boss and my supervisor in the eye until that meeting in January, and I was hired the November before. I did not see them via video. I heard their voices, and they hired me because that's how Proquest works. So I guess what I can bring to that is stop grumbling so much about online group work and know that sometimes it's reality. There is no way that we can work as a group or a team. There's 13 of us in the U.S. and we're worldwide, so we have trainers and just people all over the world. And that's how we communicate. And that's how we work on projects, and that's how we get things done. And that's the only way to do that. The trade-off is I get to work in my basement in my sweats. So that's the kind of job we're looking for. Now, in addition to those that require the library degree, we also have 70 other jobs available in different fashions. So if you come with a little technology background, like you mentioned, you started kind of in computers, if you guys do that, look for a tech job at a place that can step you to where you want to be. If you like archives, look at something where you're being the person kind of at the bottom doing scanning. Some of the non-required, non-MIS required jobs are cloud architect, data services researcher, content editor, implementation consultant. So if you're good at running projects, you put stuff together, you get it going. Marketing coordinator, you mentioned a lot of marketing in your job. Support analyst. So if you can do those things, bring your undergraduate and yourself to the table, and I think you're going to see, at least in the vendor content supplier market, a lot of opportunities for you. So another thing I want to talk about is what I find really, really important for knowing yourself and separating yourself from everyone else in this room. And I brought 3 of my most favorite books to show you or talk about. One is by Tom Rath, and this is called Strength Finder 2.0. Anybody heard of this?
Is that strength?
Strengths Finder. This is similar but much more powerful than your Myers-Briggs type of thing. Because if you've ever done Myers-Briggs, you're like one of 4 things, right? You're TP, whatever you are. This is 34 strengths and talents that are innate to you that overarch everything that you do. Mine are strategic, ideation, significance, learner, and activator. And I've always known that about myself, but it sure makes it easier to put in perspective when sometimes I get on a team and I work on a project and I'm like out the door getting it done and people are like, wow. She's kind of, sometimes she's the B word. She needs to get stuff done. That's who I am. I'm strategic and I like to get stuff stuff done, and I have ideas all the time, and people sometimes don't receive that well because I need to learn that those are my strengths, that's what I bring to the table, but then all the rest of you bring your 5. Your top 5 are the ones you always work in. There's 34 of them. If you do buy the book, there's like a little code in the back that'll let you take the test and do that. My second then, what did I bring it? There's one about go put your strengths to work. I think it helps too when you go into an interview and somebody says, well, how do you feel about working in groups? What are you going to say? I love it, because what's the other right answer? I hate working with people. No, you can say, I like it because what I bring to the table is I'm the people person, and I can then take our idea to our manager. That's not me. I'm the one that can put the plan together, but I need one of you to take it to somebody else because I don't have those warm fuzzies in me. So those things in here will let you talk about yourself in a way that you know is true, and in a way that will separate you from the yes, you love group work, yes, you love group work, yes, you love group work, yes, I work in a group. Because really, that's what you're expected to say, right? Whoever would go into an interview and say no to those really obvious questions? Unless you can back it up with something and then hope you're really rolling the dice. Another one I like is Stand Out. It's by Marcus Buckingham. He also does work with this, and this does the same type of kind of putting words on who you are. Mine are advisor and pioneer, which is completely true because since I've been little, I like to tell people what to do. But now, I don't have to feel bad about it, and I can put a word around it that when I go into a job in an interview, I know that I'm going to be suggesting to you what you should do and suggesting to you what you should do, and I have all these ideas that come together, and it sounds like it's bossy, but it's who I am, and so I work with it. And so knowing yourself, I think, is really, really important. So even if you don't take my suggestion on really putting a capstone around those, look at Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why. You need to know what your why is, so that wherever you land, whether you land in archives or outreach or public library or wherever, you know what your why is so you can get through your day with super, super ease. What is my why? My why is helping somebody know a little bit more than they did when they met us. In other words, telling people something. Love to tell people stuff. So that doesn't matter then where I'm at. I can work in Truly, I could work in retail, I could work in teaching, I could be a librarian, I could be all those things as long as my why is being met. Then that makes me very happy, along with those other things. And I will tell you, has anybody ever been in a job that you just feel isn't right for you, and you, not like the McDonald's jobs or anything like that, you don't want to stay there. But you know, you're in a job and you're doing well, but you're just not there, right? You're just, something's off. That's when you're not working in who you are. That's when you're trying to do, I can tell you what my bottom 5 are. Like when you take the little test out of the book, you don't get the whole 34, because it's through the Gallup organization and they're for-profit, so they want you to pay the money. But I can tell you what my bottom 5 are without even looking. And then when I took the test, they were exactly what they are. It's the wooing people, validating people, all those things. I don't do that. I need to depend on my team, my coworkers, to be able to do that part of the project for me. Or I need to know that I don't need to be in that position, which is why, whatever you call it, God, fate, whatever, made sure I wasn't a small library director. Because I would have vastly failed at that in 100 ways. So I guess my point to you is keep your eye open for vendors or content providers as a way to get in and use your skills in your job, what you were trained for, and be prepared to explain the most basic things to librarians. I had somebody the other day ask me why their email disappeared from their email box when they accepted my calendar invitation. And hopefully you're all laughing because you know why it disappears, right? It goes onto your calendar. I had people ask, well, why can't I find things in this PDF? Okay, you can edit that. I used to say, and my boss is in the back of the room for my adjunct position, I never found a reason to teach HTML until I got this job. Because we do LibGuides and research guides, and when they don't look the way you want, it's sure really nice to hit the source button and know you can delete that one little word beat and get rid of what you need. So I guess take everything you've learned know who you are, and be willing to try something outside traditional library.
Do you have any questions for Jennifer?
Thanks for bringing in some of those books about self-awareness about who you are. My session, which is coming up next, is about learning to brand yourself. So learning to develop your brand. So that falls in with that. So I appreciate that.
And I think also just not trying to pretend you're not someone that you're not. I mean, I think that comes a little with age too, but once you realize that you're not the soft, fuzzy person, and that you do bring to the table all these things, you can create your brand a little bit more strongly.
Yeah, I feel more confident in that.
Yes.
Okay, well, next up, we have Annie Hage, who's Hollywood's Public Library Director, so thank you so much. And again, we want a little bit of time for questions afterwards. So.
Hi, I actually was a Wayne State graduate, and while I was in the library science program, I decided I wanted to work at a library, just get experience. And I found in Huntington Woods as a circulation. While I was there, my director, who started as a children's librarian, said, you'd be a wonderful children's librarian. I said, I don't know if I want to do that. She said, well, I'm hiring a summer intern. Why don't you take that position? I took the position. I loved it. I changed my major. I went into children's services. When I graduated in 1990, I was offered the position in Huntington Woods as youth services librarian. I've been in Huntington Woods since 1990. I became director in 1997. The library has changed from this building with a lot of books and very few computers to a lot more computers and fewer books. The library it serves a population of 6,400, and then we contract with Pleasant Ridge, and they have 2,300. So we're under 10,000. The population is under 10,000. But to accommodate our very affluent, very well-read community, we offer a lot of services, electronic services like Overdrive, Hoopla, which are e-books, audiobooks, all downloadable, Freegal Music, Zinio magazines. So we're getting away from the traditional paper, but going more to electronic because that's what the community demands. Let's see what else. I've seen it change. I deal with the public every day. I go into work every day. I create the staff schedule. We only have 2 full-time people. We have a children's librarian who does amazing programs. She's in the library science program here. We offer story times 4 days a week. We have Super Saturdays. She does a lot. She's very dynamic. We offer programs to our community because our community demands us. Monthly art programs, talks, book talks, just a little bit of everything. We're open 6 days a week because again our community expects it. We're a small community, but they use the library and we're well used. And we've evolved. I think we are more of a community center too. We have a gallery in the library. I have a gallery coordinator. We have 6 or 8 shows a month that rotate. We have artist receptions. We have meetings all the time. Different groups meet there. It's a very well-used library. Some of the programs we have are we have a lot of members in Huntington that belong to the symphony. And there was a book written called Grace, Grit, and Glory, and the author, who lives in Pleasant Ridge, is actually coming in and doing a program on her book. Let's see, we're doing art programs. We have, especially in the summer, programs based on different artists, Mark Chagall, Joseph Albers, Yaka Agam. So you actually learn something and you get to take something away with this, and that's part of our mission statement is educate, entertain. So, advice for new graduates, I would say get involved. get involved, even if you can't volunteer, just to get out there and network and meet people, and your name gets out there. The other thing too is to have a web presence, just because that's the way it is going, with electronic, everything's electronic now. So, that's all I have.
I want to definitely thank all of our alumni here for spending some time to speak with us today. And then we have some online questions that have come through as well. And I have some questions for you, and I wanted to see if there's any questions for me first.
So I am very introverted, but I also like working with people. This is a question for all panelists. Do you find that your job has a balance of that, of working on your own projects, but also collaborating with others, with the public? That's what I'm kind of looking for.
I'm brutally introverted as well, which is why sometimes just labeling ourselves as introverted. Introverted is a way that we process information. So I do this. I do training as my job. I've always done it. But at the end of the day, I don't want to be with a group of people because I detox with being alone. And that's what introverted means. So just like you said, you're here doing this, you're doing outreach. Kind of what our job demands is different than how we label ourselves in that regard.
Good point.
At the archives, I consider myself introverted also, but we all have to do shifts at the reference desk, so we end up working with the public. I enjoy doing that. I gotta do it all the time, though.
Yeah, as public librarian, I do deal with the public, and I say we're part bartender, part psychiatrist, because you get all walks of life in there, and sometimes it is hard, and I am able to get away from it.
And I have a question too.
Yeah.
What professional associations would you suggest people get involved with if they want to
Well,
follow your job?
I do a lot right now with the Library Network. I'm on the SETS, Shared Automation Systems User Group, that's XCOM. I was in the XCOM, I was a part of that. I am in ALA, and I was pretty well in MLA at one point, but not anymore. But it's good to network, get out there.
Any other questions? Ed, we had a question online too. They were asking if there's much student interest in the archives on campus.
So we actually have an outreach archivist, and she teaches a class. Usually it's a freshman class, at least one semester a year. And we also work with some of the history professors. There's one of the professors teaches the Civil War, and so they work with me on which letters they should use, and yeah, we've worked with classes as much as we can. And then we try to, at first with Civil War letters, make them try to struggle reading the letters before we whip out the transcript.
Necessarily. Occasionally, I wish that I had a bachelor's degree in something like marketing, communications, or advertising. My degree's in English, so I want to write a 12-page paper on Shakespeare, but writing a business report's another much better. Yeah.
Any other questions online right now? Another question. Yes. All right. So if that's it, then we'll close out today. And thank you so much, all of you. For the students and alumni that are in the room, you can dig into your lunches, and then there'll be a few-minute break, and then we'll start my presentation. So, and I did not introduce myself at the beginning. I'm Kim Schroeder, Career Advisor for the school. I was worried about you guys. And so I'm available, obviously, for alumni and students to help in their career exploration. So, thank you.
So you all can keep meeting. As Career Advisor, I do several workshops a year, including mock interviews, and I see about 100 resumes a year from students and alumni. And so I wanted to put together some of the thoughts I had from my marketing background about how you can kind of represent yourself in the job field. So when you're looking to apply, certainly the first thing you have to ask yourself is kind of what do I need to communicate? Rather than being reactive, I want to ask you guys to design your information as if you are a brand, right? So Disney designed a brand for Disney World, okay? It wasn't reactive. They didn't throw a few rockets together. They had a plan to design what they wanted to communicate. And it's the same thing that you need to do. You need to look at your life experience, your graduate students. You have a lot to list that is not necessarily strictly in the library or information science or archive world, but other life experience from volunteering, from your undergraduate, from other work experiences, etc. And so you want to make sure that you're crafting that. It doesn't mean for most jobs that you're going to develop a CV, which is what an academic position will look for, where they want to know everything you've ever done. You're going to pick and choose what makes sense to represent for that particular job. So certainly you do represent some of your past work history. A lot of our students and alumni have come to us as, and this is a second career. So you don't necessarily need to include everything about your past work life, but you want to include whatever is portable to this degree in these types of jobs. So if it is something that you worked recruiting volunteers, guess what? We're very volunteer-heavy discipline, so that would be a good skill to include. If you worked retail, that's customer service. So whether you address that in your resume or in the cover letter, you can say 7 years of customer service. That means that you're telling somebody that you understand and can work with people. That's really important. So think about that. If you were the one in your department that organized everything, even though it wasn't a library information science job, if you're the one that did extra research. So you want to make sure you're expressing what you can indicate as portable to this particular field. So whatever experience that is. GPA, unless they specifically ask for it, which is very few positions, is really not relevant. So if you're killing yourself to get a 4.0, the only thing they really care about is that you got the diploma. So if you really want to mention it, that's fine, but it matters much less to employers than hands-on work experience, volunteers and internships, whatever, and getting your diploma. High school graduation date. Most people realize that means they can date you, exactly know how old you are. Most people are not comfortable with that. So for the most part, and I think this is a blessing now, we don't have to necessarily put dates for everything anymore. It used to be, if you had a 2-month gap, you had to explain that. Not so much anymore. People are more realistic. They know people take time out to raise children. People take time out to care for elderly family members. People are looking for a job as they move to another state. So you don't have to have consistent employment and all the dates match up perfectly. So the important thing is to know how many years experience you have in such and such. And so that's what you want to include. People have come to me and say, I'm in my 20s, if I put the high school graduation date down, I'm worried they're going to think I don't have enough to offer. People come to me in their 40s and say, I don't want to put the high school graduation date in because you're going to think I don't know technology. So you really want to, if you want to pull that out and you're not comfortable with it, the good news is that's fine by today's standards. And the main thing is they want to understand who you are as a potential employee. So through the submission process, through the interview process, they want to know that you're going to be a positive, can-do type of person. I actually had a student once who came to me, and I had him in class, and I knew he was not the most positive person in the world. And he said he was having trouble finding a job, and an organization had asked him to send his resume, cover letter, and a transcript. And he said, I didn't send a transcript. It just seemed like too much work. And I said, do you understand the image you're projecting to this employer that you're not the person that can do everything that's positive, that's going to succeed. You're picking and choosing what you're going to do. You're not sending the right message to the employer. And he said, oh, I hadn't thought of it that way. But you have to realize everything you do needs to be that. So we have lots of tools to communicate, and you want those all to be kind of consistent and to convey a consistent message. I am disappointed when I see something with references from your previous discipline. So if you are switching jobs, switching careers, I don't want to see all references from teachers. I want to see references from this field. And maybe if it's a teacher and you're working in school media, that would make sense. But you also want some divergence. So it'd be nice to have a professor on there, a librarian, or someone working in whatever particular information management area you're working in, and maybe a boss, that supervised your practicum or supervised your internship. So you want to have some diversity there. Our field is very small, and we all really know each other very much so. Most of those references people will know or know of someone. So it's really important that you have that built up. I have recently even seen people presenting personal references. They don't want to talk to the person you babysat for 10 years. They really want to talk to somebody in the field. So you want to develop those relationships. The biggest mistake I see on resumes is, again, it's a really great resume for a teacher, but you're no longer a teacher. You're now an information manager with a master's degree in this. It needs to be the resume of a master's degree in library information science. And I do think it's important to follow up and thank people and ask them when they're going to make a decision, etc., just to make sure they know you're still interested. I'm going to start talking a little faster so that I don't hold up the next speaker. So you need to communicate a clear picture of who you are. And we have a lot of really warm, fuzzy people in this field, which is fantastic. I'm very proud of that we have a lot of people that care about other people. But we also have a lot of people that are nervous in their submission materials that they are bragging. And this is your opportunity to explain to someone who may not know you who you are. And there is no other way to do that other than to state what you're capable of and what you have accomplished. It is not bragging, it's factual representation of what kind of employee you are and what you have to offer. So you need to take that worry away. Bragging is if you can't back it up, okay? Bragging is if you go way over the top. If you are factual about what you can do and what you have done and what your skills are, that is just what the employer needs to know because they're not psychic, okay? So you need to get very comfortable about that. And you need to think about what you've accomplished. And I mentioned volunteerism. A lot of people have done some amazing things. If you've been, a Cub Scout leader, that means you work with volunteers. That means you are committed to your community. All really good things in our field. We want to make sure that you're including any kind of skills. Usually you want to make sure that you emphasize that education. Any projects, so class projects, if there's links to something that you've done, if there's internship or volunteerism or paid work that you did that you can include links. I've had people that were applying for a teen services position that didn't mention they did a research paper on reference work for teens. You've got to make sure you're tying this in so that they know you've committed to this already, even while you were in school and you've researched it. So you want to make sure you're including that. I think a lot of times we get our school projects done and it's kind of out of our mind, right? We've got our grade, we're on to the next thing, but you've accomplished things at work and in school that you want to make sure that you're mentioning. They also want to make sure that you're a stable person, that you're going to show up every day, or you're not going to have a new excuse every day for why you were late. So they want to know that work history. That's why they have references. And it's another reason it's really important to have some hands-on while you're here. If you look at all studies that I have ever seen for what employers want, they want to know that you are stable and can apply what you've learned in the classroom to their work. That's why the hands-on is such an important component, and being involved in professional associations is such an important component. of your degree. So you don't want to just slam through school. Most of you do not do that. You want to make sure that people are meeting you. It does not mean you need to go up to every single person at the Midwest Archives Conference and introduce them, give them your card and say, please hire me, I'm going to be graduating. It means that you might want to be involved in a committee. It means you might want to be involved in doing a project at a local cultural institution. It means you might want to volunteer. It means, a lot of things, but it doesn't necessarily mean you have to be the most gregarious person in a room. It just means you have to make sure that people know what you're capable of. And Gail's going to talk about that in a little bit. So I put together a typical kind of job posting. So I just grabbed a traditional library degree. So here's the job posting, and we're going to see it a couple more times, so we're going to flip. So what it says is on the left, so I broke it down, okay? So it says that they're looking for full-time, essential duties, etc. And on the right, I have broken down what they really want. So if you're reading this, and I consider looking at a job posting like indexing or abstracting, okay? There's all those parts. So you're looking at the important information and what they're really saying, right? So what they're saying here really is that they want someone flexible. So that's what needs to be reflective in your submission materials. It also is saying that you're kind of going to be a catch-all, that you can do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So really being very upbeat, can-do person, as I was saying, is important. They're also looking at technology skills, and they definitely are going to want what kind of tone from your letter, right? They're going to want you to sound energetic, positive, and that you're flexible and happy to jump on various things, right? So that's the tone you want to set for your materials. Here's another section of that job posting. So they're looking for the master's in library and information science. They also are looking for you to understand what a traditional kind of public library job is, and that you can make intelligent decisions without being supervised every second. So the ideal employee is not somebody that asks a question every 2 seconds, and not someone that never asks a question. So you want to make that happy medium where you can make intelligent decisions with enough guidance and work independently on your own. So they also often ask for driver's license, which we see this a lot of times, and maybe that's because you're doing outreach, but maybe you're picking up materials, etc. So some keywords I pulled out from some of the things that I see that I felt worked really well is certainly we want to make sure we're conveying dependable. Now you don't necessarily need to use all of these words, but you want to convey this tone, that you are respectful of others. A lot of times organizations are very collaborative these days, right? Group work is the way of the world, and so you want to make sure that you might be expressing that you successfully worked in group projects. That you were flexible. Certainly, I joke around that the job I had that trained me best for working reference was waitressing. So obviously, the education component is really important because I wouldn't have had the content to support it. But when I waitressed, I had to watch every table. I had to have a great memory. I had to be flexible. I had to be positive in my interactions in public service. And I had to rearrange my priorities constantly. That's pretty much like reference. So for a lot of us, no matter what kind of public service we might be doing, that's true. Technology skills, I've been telling students for years, take as much as you can stomach. And if you've been out of school for a little while, there's lots of ways that you can continue your exploration of technology skills. There's lots of free webinars. There's lots of demos and training on YouTube. I took some technology classes at a community college for things that weren't offered here, and it was very reasonable, and I learned Drupal that way. So, there's definitely a lot of opportunity. I know a couple of my colleagues that are in highly tech-oriented library positions have said that what they did is they got, XYZ for dummies, whatever the technology was, and locked themselves away for a weekend. And just said that's how they learned it, Make a project for yourself and just lock yourself away to get to know it. Being decisive is important so that you can move forward and get your work done. And I've also included the word hip, just because if anybody's gone to a public or academic institution any time in the last 15 years, they're very innovative. They're very full of energy, and we saw that from the panel discussions when you look at what our librarians and archivists and other information managers are doing right now. And so I think it's very important that we convey that we get that it's an information economy, and we are the people that the world is turning to manage that information. So I think it's really important that in some way you convey that you understand current information trends, technology trends, research trends, public service trends, outreach, all of those things, whatever applies to what you're doing. Cover letter translation, certainly we want to make sure you're illustrating a dependable nature, that you're mentioning customer service, class projects, etc. A lot of people, when I ask them to give me examples of how you show an initiative or how you solved a problem in the workplace, they have this sort of deer in headlight look for me because they haven't thought about it. And that's because our degree attracts a lot of really good people that are doing their jobs and they don't pat themselves on the back a lot. So it doesn't come up immediately in your memory banks, but you need to think about how you've helped your workplace, whether it's in this field or not. How and why have you been given additional responsibility? What have you done to improve a process and made it more efficient? How have you gotten a letter from a client or a patron thanking you for your work? So were you employee of the month? All of those things are important to wrap into describing who you are. So I say this all the time, so I put it in my blog post. I don't want to say it anymore, but please do not relegate a master's degree to one line in your resume. I would say 95% of the resumes I see have that. Include niche classes that you took that are relevant to the job that you're applying for. Cool projects that you worked on. Definitely you want to make sure that you're including technology skills. And you can grade it, right? So you don't have to say, I'm an expert in Drupal, but you can say I have moderate skills in Drupal, okay? If you were exposed for a class project to something, like I have students working on an A-Space project right now, Archive Space, they're not going to say they're experts in it, but they're going to say basic knowledge of Archive Space, okay? So you can grade it just like you would a language, right? I have writing capabilities in French, I can speak French, I don't have writing abilities, whatever it is. So, but make sure you're building that out so that you can showcase all that you've been exposed to. You've seen our job postings. It is very unlikely that you will know every specific type of software a job is going to list. But if you show how much you've been exposed to, the employer will say, well, they don't know this ILS, but they know this one, and they're trainable, they'll get it. So make sure that you mention that. You can just do it. The other thing is to make sure that your cover letter emphasizes several of the skills they're looking for, and I would pick your strongest ones, right? So whatever you're strongest with in the posting, you might list 15, 20 skills. You can't cover all of those, or your cover letter would be a novel, right? So pick 2 or 3 of the ones you are really strong in and you can back up. It's like a research paper, right? So you can say, oh, I've got 7 years of customer service and I was given, employee of the month 7 times and da-da-da-da. Okay, you can back that up next. Okay, so pull out the ones that you're strongest at that also they seem to be a priority for the employer. So here's an example. Thanks. So I see things like this. Macy's Sales Associate, 2008 to present. And they're basically saying they sort clothes. Here's my rewrite at the bottom, okay? Successfully managed customers' needs in an increasingly tough economic period, received increasing responsibility for customer service and the maintenance of products, received service awards including Employee of the Month 3 times, okay? Now, that was all factual, okay? But the person I initially worked with was really underselling what they were offering their current employee. They want to transition away from Macy's. The only way you're going to do that is to understand what you're doing now and contributing now, and make sure that that's reflected in your submissions material. I suggest getting reference letters if you can. Not everybody will write a reference letter that's sort of generic that you can use for various positions, but these days with how busy people are, it's becoming more common. So you might ask a professor that you really connected with, maybe you had them for 2 semesters, for instance, to say, hey, would you write me a reference letter? These are the types of jobs I'm applying for. And then they could say, you know, I recommend Megan for, you know, solid archival work because of blah, I had her, blah, blah, you know, she did this great paper. So they can have that, and that's something to shop around. And then I often say, hey, if you have a couple or even one really great letter from someone that is known in the field, I would include it in submissions material, even if they're not asking for reference letters, because it's another voice besides yours saying hire him or her. Okay? Okay, we can switch. Also, be sure to prepare these stories about you. I told you that people will have a deer in headlights sometimes. And really think about that. Think about, you know, what you have to offer. One of the things, one of our alumni says that she's a director of a public library, and she said she interviews people all the time. They're patently unprepared for interviews. And she will ask them, well, why do you want to work here? And they have no idea why they want to work with her. And their answer is they want a job. But their true answer should have been that they researched that institution, they understand what the trends are, what they're doing right now, and they want to work there because they know ABC about the organization. So the fact that our graduates don't know that question will be asked is upsetting to me. And so there's some things you can do with some of our workshops, and we've got a lot of resources on our career advising page, which is in my signature line and at the end of this, that you can use. Make sure that you follow up. So this is my tidbit I do when I was interviewing, and I had pretty good success with interviews. We're information professionals. You're walking around, you're getting interviewed, you're talking to people. Something will come up that you know that they don't, just because you just graduated or you're in school or you just read it somewhere. And someone in that interview process will say, really, I didn't hear about that. And you say, really? Well, then you as the information professional better send that link to them afterward and say, here it is, what we talked about, thank you for your time, blah, blah, blah. Because you're showing them that you were listening, you remembered it, and you are giving them the information. That's what we do, isn't it? Okay, next. Top mistakes, definitely. Not really reading a job posting and just communicating what you want to communicate as opposed to what they're looking for. So make sure that you're breaking that down. Resumes written for another discipline, as I mentioned. Interviewing without listening. Sometimes people are so nervous that they have in their head what they want to communicate, and they are not really listening to the questions asked because they don't want to forget this one anecdote about themselves they think will really sell it. So one way to deal with that is to set up a mock interview with a friend, a family member, me, whatever. Another way is this great model that some of my students told me they were doing. They were taking commonly asked interview questions, and they would each take one for a week and think about how they would answer it. And then they would meet for coffee on Sunday morning, and they would tell each other how they would answer it. And then they would say, oh, I think that's good because, or, oh, you could also say this. So it was a very comfortable atmosphere. There was no risk. But they were talking through what they have to offer. And it was giving them a chance to fully develop their answers so that when they went to a real interview, it wasn't as stressful as it could have been without practicing the questions and thinking through it and understanding as Jennifer Cornell mentioned earlier in the earlier session, who you are and what you have to offer. I've definitely had people stress negative things in interviews. I've had people come in and complain about their current bosses. I've had people tell me about breakups. I don't want to hear any of that, okay? So you definitely want to come in. The most toxic thing an employer can do is hire a negative person. It will bring down the morale of the entire organization. So A, don't be that person. And B, make sure you're walking into any interview and being an employer as a positive person, and you will go very far. I strongly recommend follow-up. I know sometimes now people are saying, don't follow up or don't check. I think as best you can, it's really good to have cards written out or blank cards you take with you to the interview and pop them in the mail on your way out of town that day. It's really nice to do a handwritten thank you card to everybody involved. It may not technically get you the job, but I will tell you, if you don't get the job, they will be more likely to recommend you to another colleague that's looking for someone. So I think it's a bridge builder. Go ahead. Okay, so these are little forms I made up that I want you to think about. So if you were developing your brand, right? So you're the Colleen brand. So Colleen has to figure out what are her positive qualities. What has she accomplished? Can we go to the next one? So here's the accomplishments one, right? So you need to think about this, and I really would tell you to think about this. What are your accomplishments? So if I ask you, if I put it on the line right now and say, okay, what are your accomplishments that an employer would care about, that they want to hear about, okay? What are they? You need to know that. And you should know that before you put your resume together, because you need to understand who you're representing, how you're representing yourself, right? So, and it might be different for different jobs. And because people are very complex, it might be different. You might emphasize different things. You go to the next one. So I also think you need a second sort of form that you fill out in your head, which is remember me. What do I want to reinforce about myself and to make sure they remember when I leave? I have interviewed people that I have been very attentive to. I listened to their answers, and they left the room, and I thought, I don't really remember anything about them. Why is that? On paper, they have the qualifications, but why they're not leaving me with something that I say, oh, okay, I remember that they had this really great idea about outreach to senior citizens, and they implemented it, so I remember that. So we want to make sure you have something. Next. And then any unique skills. So if you have foreign language skills, if you have unique computer skills, if you wrote a grant, whatever it is that you think differentiates yourself from others. Maybe you're, leading a committee. Maybe you innovated something in the field and started with a little group that's created a blog that communicates things. So like the people that wrote that I need a library job blog, right? So it's an innovative thing. Next up. So then I made up some dummy examples, and okay, I'm going to talk super fast. I apologize. But here's an example that I just came up with that someone named Katie could say that they project directed something, they were collaborative, and they have understanding of technology applications. And one thing I think is really important to emphasize, which we talk about at our faculty meetings all the time, is that you need to emphasize, if you came out of this degree, I feel comfortable saying this, that you can learn technology, not that you know every technology that exists, right? So you need to be able to express how you understand the adaptation of technology, when it should be used, and what should be used. Next. And then you might want to see you got strong communication skills, excellent writing skills, especially if you've published, if you've presented, you want to make sure that you're emphasizing that. Next. We'll go to the next one in the interest of time. And then remember me, understand outreach needs in both traditional and new ways. Okay, and maybe you use some examples of that in an interview. Strong communication and patron interactions, maybe you have gotten some recognition at your position. Maybe you had submitted that you had improved processes a couple of times, and that therefore you were a positive problem solver. And then unique skills, so I just threw some ideas on there. So there isn't anywhere necessarily you need to submit this to. It's just clarity for yourself as to how you're putting your name out there and what you want people to remember and know about you. So next. Here's my contact information, and the career advising page is listed on there. We've got a lot of information and it's growing. I've written several posts for our SLIS blog, if you want to look at those, giving you some of this type of information as well. And just let me know if you've got questions. And I'm around all summer to help you guys with putting materials together. Okay? Quick questions? No? I'm sorry I talked fast. I think I'll leave a little more room in between for next year. But I wanted to introduce Gail, who is working with the Michigan Library Association. And she wants to talk, and you pronounce your name, Madziar. Thank you. I was scared to chop it up. And she has a lot to say about the importance of networking. You guys hear this from me all the time, and I know you're sick of it, but it really does help you get a job, and it really helps you know enough people to call on other colleagues to help you problem solve issues at work. So it does a lot of things for you. And so Gail is going to discuss that a little bit, and I will let her do that. But thank you for your time today, Gail.
Thank you, Kim, for the introduction. And as she said, I'm Gail Madziar with the Michigan Library Association. And I think everything that Kim said today, you should put in your memory as golden. Because all the classes, all the experience, all the perfect grades and papers and research you did won't do you any good if you aren't able to connect with an employer. And what Kim said is absolutely spot on, no matter what kind of position you're looking for. We'll talk a little bit more about that and how MLA can assist with you and connecting with some folks that can help you find jobs. Our mission, the MLA mission, is to helping libraries and library professionals succeed. So we basically do two things. We help you with professional development. I like to say it's the things that you didn't learn in library school. And we also do advocacy, and that's helping libraries stay funded, and it helps any assaults on anything that would impact how you can work with your patrons and your students. Our association is 125 years old, and you can find an association for almost anything you're interested in, and libraries are no different. Our association is a multi-type, meaning we have academic, public, special, and school libraries all as members. And the nice thing about that is you get a wide variety of folks. If you're sitting at a table like this at a session or a program, you get to talk with people that you might not ever think about having a job in a school library or in a special library, or if there even are libraries in different organizations. And you get a chance to hear about what they say, and sometimes they can answer some of your problems, some of the questions you have as well. Again, we were founded in 1890. We just celebrated 125 years, and free access to information is the cornerstone to a free society, and it's what we support, and that's one of the reasons why our advocacy is so important. We want to make sure that no one infringes upon that. And I'll tell you a couple stories when we get to the advocacy part, where it took everyone to make sure that the First Amendment wasn't trampled on, and librarians had a big part to play in that success. Our membership our membership, we have about 350 academic, public, and special libraries, about 900 individual library professionals. So you can be an individual member whether or not your organization is a member. And we have student memberships. And one of the things that I'm going to encourage you to do is to sign up as a student with the American Library Association. It's $38 for a year, and you get both ALA and MLA membership. And if you're a student today and you graduate tomorrow, sign up today because your year you're good for a year. And that's a huge savings, and you get all the advantages and opportunities at member pricing for any kind of programs, and it's a huge, huge opportunity. So take advantage of that before you graduate so that you can get that year for $38. Now we have, this is our Lieutenant Governor and Lance Werner, who is the librarian at Kent District Library. He is also the Wayne State Alumni of the Year this year, which is very exciting. I'll be back on Saturday to join him for his award ceremony there. And he is a past president. And Lance came to MLA to be president without having spent a lot of time coming up the chairs, so to speak, or serving on committees. And he did a tremendous job. But I think he would be the first one to admit that he could have been more successful, and he could have enjoyed it more had he had opportunities to connect at another level and kind of go up the ranks, serve on the board. That's something that we encourage people to do: serve on a committee, serve on a work group, serve on a board, and then run for a leadership position. But we had the Lieutenant Governor speak at one of our sessions about a program he was working on. And one of the things that's so important about advocacy is that if you're not talking to your legislators, if you don't have someone standing up for your industry, your community, they say if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And it's very, very true. If we aren't there every year educating these new legislators, we had 50-some new legislators come in with this last election. If you're not there having somebody educate them, explaining to them why libraries are important to their communities and their constituents, I guarantee you there's somebody else talking about why their community and their industry is important and why they should get the funding. Every year we fight for state aid to libraries, which helps the public libraries, for the line item for the e-library and MEL, which impacts all of the academic libraries very, very seriously. If you had to pay for every one of those databases that you get, I want to say for free, that you get that we've gotten funding for, your library wouldn't be able to have them all. Your school wouldn't be able to have them all, and it would be a big disadvantage. I mean, some of the bigger schools could, but any of the community colleges, any of the smaller schools, and a lot of our K-12 schools would really, really miss that MEL and Michigan E-Library. There are lots of resources there, as I'm sure I don't have to tell you about those, but it's one of the things that we fight for funding. 2 years ago, in December of 2015, the very last day of session, the very last day of a 2-year session, in the dark of night, there was a bill passed. It was Senate Bill 571. And I mean literally in the dark of night. It was 10:30 at night. The bill had gone back and forth between the House and Senate. It was a little innocuous bill that shouldn't have had any impact on anything that libraries were dealing with. But this 17-page bill came back to the Senate late at night with a 41-page amendment. Now, leadership wanted that bill passed. They kicked all of the Democratic staffers off the floor and locked the doors and said, we're voting on this. And the legislators didn't have a lot of time to look at it or read it, the leadership said, it's fine, you don't need to read it, vote for this. So when the caucus says vote, the caucus votes. They voted this out. We worked very, very hard. Some of you might have been involved in that. We had every library, which is the national lobbyist, involved, because this could have become a national issue. And what this said was that for 60 days prior to a ballot issue, libraries, schools, whomever, could not communicate with their constituents, with their patrons, about that ballot issue. And not only was that a First Amendment issue, but it flew in the face of what libraries do. Libraries' purpose is to provide free and open information, free and open access to information. So we fought very hard. We had a call to action. We had 800 libraries and library supporters contact the governor saying, don't sign this bill. Every library delivered petitions with thousands of signatures, some from across the country, asking the governor not to sign the bill. When he signed the bill, we were very, very disappointed. However, along with that bill signing, is he penned a letter that said, Senate, House, you need to address this issue with the First Amendment. Well, they didn't. They didn't need to. They had gotten the bill passed. It was signed. Well, a coalition of organizations, the Michigan Library Association, along with school associations and other organizations, the townships, anyone who cared about getting a millage passed, joined a coalition, and we filed a lawsuit in federal court. Now, we ultimately got a judgment in favor of our lawsuit. So we were able to mitigate that part of this legislation that would have in effect gutted libraries' ability, schools' ability to get millages passed. I mean, we figured that if this bill stood as they passed it, probably within 5 years, 50% of our public libraries would be closed or seriously impacted. And in 20 years, any library without a perpetual millage would probably have to close. I mean, it was very, very serious. So this is something that your association works on. We work with other coalitions, we work with other groups, and try to make sure that we're watching for things that can impact libraries. We never would have thought this bill would have had any impact. But after it was passed, we started looking at it and realized that this is a serious problem for anyone trying to pass a millage. Now, just recently, we managed to help get passed 6 bills that would impact libraries' ability to get their taxes, all of their taxes, from tax capturing authorities. Tax capturing authority is a quasi-governmental entity that develops itself, for instance, a downtown development association, it organizes itself, we're going to fix sidewalks. And they capture a portion of all the dedicated millages, including libraries' dedicated millages. Well, folks have gone to the ballot and voted to support their library. They didn't vote to support the DDA. And they were getting their taxes captured by that DDA without any representation. So these 6 bills, we've been working on them, MLA has been working on them for 20 years to try to get some relief here from those. And these 6 bills managed to impact that. And it was a very long process. We worked very hard on it, and there were many people involved, and many librarians. And you may have received information asking you to participate in contacting your legislator. If you want to get involved in advocacy, MLA is an excellent place to do that. Again, this is Kathy Wolford. She works for Wayne State. Many of you may know her. And again, this is now Senator Stamas. He attended one of our awards banquets. Thank you. All right, professional development. I want to mention our professional development because this is an opportunity for you, number one, to, again, learn the things that you might not have learned in library school, things that aren't specific to librarianship. And it is also an opportunity for leadership training and developing your leadership skills. If you serve on a work group or a committee, you have the opportunity to lead that committee, and it's a place to test your leadership and to gain leadership in a very safe and secure environment. And again, it's something you can put on your resume that you were a chair or a leader of a work group or a committee. And even more important than that is when you're serving on that work group or committee, you're sitting at the table with somebody who may be your next boss. And that's something that Kathy Wolford tells the story that she met her current boss when she was serving on a work group. And they worked together. Stephen got to know her, realized that she was a go-getter, that she was always on time, always had her assignments done. And when somebody was looking for someone to fill that position and she applied, he said, I already know her. Absolutely, I'm going to give her a shot. And I will tell you that I receive phone calls all the time from people who say, okay, I'm looking for a librarian. I got resumes from these 3 people. Do you know any of them? And not to say that I know everybody, but I might say, oh, they served on this committee, or they served on that committee, or I'll go to my professional development manager and say, do you know Kathy? Have you ever worked with her? Oh yeah, she's a great contributor. She's really great with computer skills, or she's got fantastic people skills. And that's the networking. You can't buy that kind of exposure. And that's where networking is so important. Whether it's MLA or another organization, your alumni association, whatever it is, and especially if it's in your field. Those are the best contacts to have. That's the best way you're going to get contacts. And I know that Kim gave you tons and tons of information about opportunities to brand yourself and to help with different kinds of interview questions. But when you're sitting at a table and talking with someone, talking with your peers, talking with folks in positions that you aspire to, you learn things from them. And you can ask questions of them. You know, what's going on in technology in your library? What's going on with youth librarians? Or I'm interested in this, or I'm interested in that. And you can learn so much. And that's where somebody's going to say, oh, why don't you call so-and-so because they know so much about this? So it's a great opportunity, and I can't emphasize enough that you should take advantage of that and take advantage of any opportunities to ask folks to help you find a job, and especially in your associations, because everyone is looking for the very best talent. And libraries are no different. I mean, they steal librarians from one another all the time. In fact, I had a library director call me and say, Gail, I'm thinking of applying for a job at the XYZ library. He said, what do you think? I said, well, first of all, I would hate to see you leave your library because you're doing a fantastic job. But I said, I think you would be a perfect fit for there, and absolutely apply. His next question was, would you give me a reference? And I said, absolutely I would. And I hear that all the time. So that was just the impetus he needed to say, okay, I'm going to do this. And we chatted for a while about, his career path. And I am not an expert in library career paths, but I certainly can talk about challenges of getting a job. We've all been there, and all will be there in the future at some point. So, I just want to emphasize again that it's a great opportunity. We have a leadership academy for folks who are interested in getting more leadership opportunities, and I can tell you that of the last 5 presidents we had, I think 4 of them went through our Leadership Academy. And one of the things about Leadership Academy is you go through with a cohort of librarians, and those are folks that you will keep contact with probably your entire career. When you have a question or you have a concern, you're going to call those folks and you're going to say, remember when we talked about this, or here's what I'm dealing with. Do you have any suggestions? Do you have any ideas? The second thing that goes really hand in hand with professional development is our mentor program. Now, our mentor program there's no charge for this, but this is extremely valuable. Again, especially if you're looking to move to your next career, but even if you're brand new, this is your first job and you're deer in the headlights. We set you up with a mentor. We ask questions. You fill out paperwork, and you tell us what you're looking for. Are you in a position that, you know what, my next job I want it to be director, or my next job I want it to be a youth librarian, or I am really strong in technology, but I'm not as strong in my customer service or whatever else, and I'd really like to work with someone who specializes in that. And we'll sit down and match you up with someone, and it's very informal in that you set up how you want to work with them. Do you want to meet on the phone once a week, once a month, once a quarter? We encourage you to get together if possible. At annual conference is a good time. But it's an opportunity just to pick somebody's brain, and you don't have to worry that, oh, I don't want to admit that I don't know this to anybody in my library, because you know everything, and you want everybody to think you know everything. But this is a good opportunity to ask somebody who's not going to judge. They're there to help you. So I strongly encourage you to consider our mentor program or another mentor program. And if you can't get involved in a formal mentor program, find a mentor to help you. Talk to someone and say, you know, I'd really like you to mentor me and help me on my career path. And if you're in a position, offer to be a mentor. When you have students coming up behind you and you've got a year of experience under your belt, and you can say, oh my gosh, I know what you were going through. So it's I can't emphasize enough that it is an outstanding way to, again, develop more skills, more information than you necessarily got it in your classes. Ways to connect. We have interest groups. You can get involved with an interest group, and these are just getting started, but these are online, or they might be some other kind of social media where you get to interact, ask questions, learn things, post information. Our social networking, of course, Facebook, Twitter, and you want to expand your list of professional contacts, and that's a good way. I mean, if you work with someone or meet them at an event, it's much easier to connect than, for instance, if I met you at a conference and you want to connect with me, you can say, oh yeah, I talked to them in the hallway, rather than what's this, and what job are they looking for? So in-person and virtual events and work groups as well. So leadership opportunities, I talked about a little bit, serving on work groups and committees and boards. You have a chance to lead there. And one of the interesting things about leadership is you're always learning about leadership, whether you think you are or not. So if you're sitting in a committee, you're watching that leader and you're going, no, I'm never going to lead a meeting like this, or I really like the way they lead this meeting. So you're always learning, and those are a great way to increase your leadership skills. Networking, we've talked about networking. You're probably tired of hearing the word, but we can't emphasize it enough, because this is where you're going to get your job. It's, you know, an old saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know. It's so true. Because it is so hard to hire someone. I mean, when you're sitting on that side of the table, you think, oh, you know, you have all the power across the table, and here I am trying to convince you. But I tell you what, you make one bad hire, And every interview is just as scary for me as it is for you. Because you want that person with a good attitude. Because are they going to come in and in 2 weeks, everybody's in the dumps because, like Kim says, they have a bad attitude? I tell you what, energy, enthusiasm, and a good attitude can take you a long, long way. Because you don't have to know everything. You don't have to know every software. All you have to do is be able to say, look, I worked on this software. I learned it. I can learn any other one. I'm not afraid of them. You have a great attitude. You're gonna have a lot better chance of getting that job than someone with, oh, I worked on these 5 databases or these 5 programs, but you think, what are you thinking, giving me an answer like that, or not being prepared, or because your attitude is reflected, like Kim said, do your research. The first question I ask someone when I interview them is, what do you know about MLA? And what I want them to say is, I Googled you, I went to your website, I did some research, and whatever interesting thing they found is okay with me. I don't care what they say they know, but just the fact that they tried. Because I think if you're not going to spend that little bit of time and effort, why would I think you're going to give me 110%? And, why am I going to choose you over someone else? Because you're trying to sell yourself to me, and I'm trying to figure out why I don't want to hire you. So you want to give me every reason to hire you. And a lot of the kinds of questions that you're going to get now, as opposed to, do you know this database, is going to be, if you were in a situation like this, how would you handle it? How would you respond to a patron that came and asked you this? How would you deal with a colleague, or how do you deal with conflict on the job? Or tell me about a time that you had a conflict on the job and how you handled it. And I don't really care what the conflict was. I just want to know that you can figure out how to deal with people. And those questions are all about how you deal with people. It's not what you learned. It's how you deal with people. Those are situational questions. And that's where you're going to sell yourself. Being able to answer those kinds of situational questions. At your career development, we have a website portal, probably a lot of the same information that Kim was talking about, but you can't have too much information. I would recommend that you post your resume there. You do not have to be a member to post your resume. You don't have to be a member to go out there and look for jobs, because there are jobs posted there. It's just one more tool that you should have in your toolbox. And one of the things that you can talk about when you're in an interview, if you have an opportunity to negotiate a salary or anything else that you might be able to negotiate, is to ask for membership in organizations. Because number one, you just might get it. They might pay it for you if you ask. And number two, it shows them that you want to continue your education, but also that you're willing to give back. You're willing to give back to your community, give back to the library community. And that's very important, because if people don't give back, if people don't keep trying to bring up the next generation of librarians and try to keep things moving forward, it's going to stagnate. And we all know how quickly the library industry and community is changing. And that's not going to slow down. That's going to get faster. We need folks who are giving back and bringing to the table, here's what we need our next librarians to have. And if you have customer service skills, if you have those kinds of social skills, you're going to be heads and shoulders above anyone else. Now, there are jobs that archiving and that kind of thing where you don't have as much interaction. But more and more, I'm hearing from librarians that they need librarians who have social skills, who can interact, who can have a conversation, who aren't afraid to deal with people, and have good customer service. And again, the example that Kim used about working at Macy's as a salesperson, that absolutely is critical, having that kind of skills. And I love the way she spun it around to explain, here's what I did, because it shows your creativity. It shows you took the job seriously. Yeah, you don't want to put anything that's not true, but you were Employee of the Month 3 times. That's a hard job, and you were Employee of the Month. So imagine when you have your dream job, I expect you're going to be Employee of the Month every day. So don't make light of those kinds of that kind of experience, because that's huge to someone. I mean, we want to know as an employer, we want to know that you know how to come in, turn on your computer, get your coffee, and get to work all by 8 o'clock in the morning. We want to know that you know how to work all day long. You know what it's like to have to work a long day, skip your lunch. I mean, whatever it takes. If you've never worked any place, you don't know how to deal with a boss. I mean, of course, but other bosses. I mean, sometimes just learning how to deal with a superior, with your supervisor, makes your first job so much easier, because you think, you know what, yeah, I get it. They're just doing their job too. So making sure that you're on the MLA job portal is another opportunity. Presentations. Now, I don't know how many presentations you're required to do for your degree, but I know that having the opportunity to present is not only something that can help you with your social skills and with your leadership skills, but you can also put that on your resume. You can put on your resume that you presented at a statewide conference. I know that's hugely important for academic positions, but also it would show a public library director that you're going to be able to stand up and do a program. You're going to be able to do a class. You're going to be able to teach whoever's out there and have those skills. So you can get a chance to present. You can do poster sessions, which is a real low stress way to get started, and those are fun. When we do our poster sessions at conference, we always do a cocktail reception at the same time. So the people that are talking to you have a drink in their hands, so they're already happy, So they're gonna interact with you, and they're gonna want to hear what you have to say, because they're relaxing. They've been sitting on their butts all day in sessions. So it's a really easy way to get your foot in the door. And I know we had one newly minted librarian at our conference last year. And she presented a poster session. She was so excited because it went so well. And I said, well, good, because now I expect to see your proposal for next year for that same topic as a full-blown session. She was sorry she talked to me. But that's an opportunity that you don't want to miss, because, again, you're in a room this size with your peers, and everybody out there wants you to succeed. And a lot of those people you might know. They might be some of your colleagues, but if not, it could be your next boss. It could be, someone that you want to connect with. So this is just leadership, very important. Part of leadership is showing up. It's stepping up. It's raising your hand when you're scared to death. And that's one of the advantages of being an MLA member, is that you're among a group of people who are like-minded in that they care about one thing, and that's libraries, and that's librarianship, and they all want the same thing that you do, and that's for libraries to succeed. So it's a safe place. It's a good chance to step up where you might not have that chance in some other time, especially if you're in an entry-level job. You might not get to be a leader at that point. But don't be afraid to step up. Don't be afraid. And one of the presentations that I did last year at the main conference, which is the School Librarians Conference, it was Failure Way to Success. And, librarians, some of them, I'll kind of paint you with a broad brush. There are some who are more introverted than extroverted. And the whole point of my presentation was to tell them, So what you screwed up? So what you wish you'd have said something else? Yeah, there's next time. Because I guarantee you that once you've presented, once you've done what you're going to do, everybody leaves. They're off on their own. They're off on their own lives. They're not going to remember that you said blue instead of red, or that you said up instead of down. So leadership is about showing up, and it's about stepping up. It's not about everything being totally confident. Nobody's totally confident. Nobody knows everything. But you have definitely talents, and you shouldn't be afraid to step up and use those. Okay, I won't say the word anymore. I know you're tired of hearing it. So let's go to the next one. This is some of the student benefits we talked about. But again, we do have scholarships for students for our conferences and workshops. So if you're a student member and you want to go to annual conference, apply for a scholarship to MLA. The Library of Michigan also, everybody write this down, Library of Michigan has stipends for professional development. It doesn't have to be our program, it doesn't have to be Library of Michigan program. It can be any library-centered program. And you just fill out the information, submit it, and they have stipends for all kinds of professional development. Take advantage of it, because I know some of them go unused every year. And you can come to our events, our conferences. Their stipends cover transportation. It covers lodging. So you could go completely free. So take advantage of that. And again, our scholarships are tuition. You get the registration fees. But some of them are one day. Some of them might be in your town. So if that's an issue for you, and sometimes you can get your employer to participate in your professional development. The Career Center we've talked about a little bit. We have an extensive database of job postings. There are resume examples. I know Kim gave you some. Interviewing tips, career articles, helpful resources to advance your career. And you can't learn enough about interviewing and about how to sell yourself. So any resources that you can read and that you can kind of internalize and try and get try and get yourself psyched up, because you're valuable. You have great skills. You will have a tremendous education, and you should be proud of that. And you should be able to sit across the table with any one of those directors who are scared to death that they're going to hire the wrong person, and convince them that you're the right person, because it's just a conversation. That somebody once said that in the first 3 minutes they decide whether or not you're going to get hired. I don't know if that's true or not. I kind of think that's, might be passé, but it certainly matters the impression that you make. And if you have a smile, a good handshake, you're dressed well, and you're feeling as self-confident as you can because you did your homework, that's going to go a long way. You don't have to, like I said, be the expert. They're not hiring the expert. They're hiring someone who's recently come out of library school. So take advantage of all the opportunities to learn and to post your resume and to see what's out there. Again, this is just a screenshot, shows you our job posting page. But there are postings that are just from Michigan, that are just our members, but there are also postings from around the country as well. So you have a chance to look if you're looking for across the country. And again, post your resume. And then one of the other things that we like to say that you get to do when you are an MLA member, and that's to set the direction of the future of your industry, the future of your community, the future of libraries, because you set the direction, and MLA will help move the library community in that direction. We have our board of directors that works on the projects that we try to move forward. We have a legislative committee that helps select which types of legislation we're going to try and champion. If you're interested again in advocacy, there's spots on the legislative committee that you would enjoy. You don't have to do a lot there, mostly phone, once a month on the phone and once in person. But I will ask you to go out and meet your representatives. And that's not as scary as it seems. They're just folks just like us. Well, not just like us, but they're just regular people, and the more interaction you can have with them and learn that they just are trying to do their job, the easier it's going to be when we have to go to them and say, hey, we want you to really consider this legislation, what it will do positively or what it will do negatively for libraries. Advance the profession. Again, you're the future. You're the future of libraries. So you want to be there. You want to be at the table helping to advance your profession and making sure that librarians are still needed and that they are respected and that they have, that libraries are required to have degreed librarians. That's one of the bills that I worked on a few years ago. We had a senator who was going to introduce legislation that said library degree is not necessary for these kinds of libraries. We said, wait a minute. Just because somebody can dust the shelves doesn't mean that they're a librarian. And we worked really hard on that, and he didn't introduce that legislation, but he would have, and there would have been a class of libraries that wouldn't have needed degreed librarians. And then it's a slippery slope till we get to the point where, oh, well, this person can just, open the doors and close them and dust the books. And it was a school public library that we were dealing with, and one of the things, the superintendent was on a conference call with us, and he said, we've had for the last year, we've had someone with a high school degree, high school diploma, working part-time in the library. That's all we've had. And he said, it's no different today than it was a year ago. And I thought, oh my gosh, you don't realize that you just said my argument. He thought it was okay. Everything's just fine. Books are still there. People are checking out books as they... Do you not understand that now you're a year behind everybody else? There's new technology that's come out that now your students, your public, doesn't have access to. So advancing the profession, learning, teaching, presenting, leading, those are all things we talk about. Those are opportunities for you. And again, advocate for libraries and patrons, and the legislative part is a big part of what we do, but it's not the only thing, and you can do as little of that or as much of that as you like. You might find that it's something that you really enjoy. You might find that it's something I'm going to send my email and then I'm done. But either way, it gives you a chance to be a part and have a voice in the future of your organization, the future of your industry. So I think that's my last slide, or I'm pretty close, yeah. Can I answer any questions or anything? Sure.
You mentioned posting your resume on the MLA.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
On the MLA website. If you go there, there'll be a place for you to upload it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be a member?
No, you do not have to be a member to post your resume. Okay. Thank you very much. And don't hesitate to contact me. I'm going to leave some cards here. We're www.milibraries.org. Feel free to email me, call me. If there's anything I can do, if there's anything I can do for you at all. Thanks.
We have a few minutes, so I don't know if there's any other questions that have come up about anything you've seen today, online or in person. Well, if not, then I want to thank you all for coming today. I hope this was helpful, and stay in touch and let me know, how things are going if you have questions. Okay? All right, enjoy your afternoon. Thanks.